Hi, welcome to the Innovative Assessment Professional Learning Series. The Louisiana Department of Education is committed to developing the IAP in partnership with Louisiana schools and school systems. As part of that commitment, the LDOE and partner systems have developed this professional learning series. My name is Emily Howell, and I'm the ELA facilitator for Lincoln Parish Schools in Ruston, Louisiana. This is session 4, Understanding Item Types Synthesis. This session is part of a larger professional learning series designed to help school systems with implementation of the IAP. For any questions about the program, please contact Ruth Caluette, Innovative Assessment Program Coordinator, or Kathy Judy, Supervisor of Assessment Content, ELA. You might notice that there is a previous session, selected response, and constructed response. And I highly recommend that you go back and engage in session 3 before engaging in session 4. Session 4 is an extension of many topics and texts that we talked about in session 3. During session 3, we took a deep dive into the selected response questions and the constructed response item. Over the course of our session today, we will be working with ideas from the same texts as we dig into the synthesis essay. During the session, we will use 3 handouts: the participant guide, the IAP assessment guide, and the IAP score report guidance document, all of which are linked in the speaker's notes of slide 1 of this deck. Please be aware that there may be more current documents released since the time of this recording in November 2023. Also keep in mind that it will be essential to read and annotate the passages from The Heretic's Daughter prior to this session. This is a passage that was featured on a field test for the innovative assessment. You can find instructions on how to access this passage also linked in slide 1. Over the course of our session today, we will be working with ideas from those passages in order to better understand the synthesis essay. Please take a moment now to preview the objectives for this session. Now let's take a look at our agenda for this session. We will review some Let's Set the Context information from our previous session. Then we will examine the writing prompt. Then we will analyze the scoring rubric, set a little bit more context, and finally engage in a scoring activity. We always begin with our ELA goal for students to read, understand, and express their understanding of complex grade level texts. As a quick reminder from session 3, the samples that we are about to examine are based on the Witch of Blackbird Pond ELA Guidebooks unit and were field test items for the IAP. Because only a small number of students participated in the field testing of grade 6 Witch of Blackbird Pond unit, we were not able to use this unit operationally. However, this afforded us a unique opportunity to release some of the writing prompts that were administered during the field test and the sample student responses from that particular test form. So you're going to get to see an abundance of authentic student writing. When reviewing the materials, just keep in mind that the samples are from grade 6 and were featured on a field test. For our time today, we will be using these items, student responses, and the unit as a whole, as an example to guide our participant experientials over the course of the session. At this time, please review the unit overview that we looked over in session 3. You might remember that one of the first activities that we engaged in was really looking at the nouns in the unit overview. We wrote down the words Puritans, America, person, identity, family, religion, race, class, society, and choices. And all of the selected response items and the constructed response item all looped back to these ideas. And the same will be true for us today with that synthesis prompt. As a reminder from session 3, a key component of the IAP is that students are being assessed on a unit that they deeply engaged with in class. We know that conceptual coherence is a key foundation of guidebooks design. So in all of the guidebooks units, concepts and ideas are explored through that coherent text set. If you want to see the entire text set for the Witch of Blackbird Pond, you can look on the Curriculum Hub, or you can look in the participant guide for session 3. Now that we've reviewed our Let's Set the Context information from session 3, we will spend some time studying the writing prompt. Keep in mind that the second section of the IAP consists of a single essay question that requires students to use that knowledge that they have built from text in the ELA guidebooks unit, plus a new text that they engage with in section 1 of the assessment. This helps them to analyze and synthesize concepts across texts. In order to demonstrate synthesis and expression of knowledge across text, students are asked to include relevant information from 3 texts in their written responses, including specific evidence from the new text. At this time, if you will join me on page 19 of the assessment guide, you can spend about 2 minutes to read the prompt. As you read the prompt, if you'll consider the following question: what connection can you make between the writing prompt and the big ideas that we just reviewed from session 3? Okay, welcome back. And as we get started looking at the writing prompt, I want to just read what is the bottom line of the prompt. The prompt asks students to write a well-developed essay explaining how people's values, beliefs, and actions impact their identities. And you're going to hear me say those 4 words over and over in the coming minutes: values, beliefs, actions, and identities. And something that you might have noticed is that the connection between the IAP writing prompt about how people's identities are impacted by their values, beliefs, and actions, and our culminating writing task that we really dug into in session 3, that was about Kit's loyalty and the Witch of Blackbird Pond. Both of these things center around the theme of identity and the relationship with values and actions. On the IAP writing prompt, students are asked to explain how individuals' identities are shaped by values, beliefs, and actions. This is going to require an analysis if they choose the Witch of Blackbird Pond, but how the characters from the Witch of Blackbird Pond and the excerpts from The Heretic's Daughter are influenced by these factors. They might not choose the Witch of Blackbird Pond, they might choose 2 other texts, but my point is, the innovative assessment writing prompt is going to be a broader and more general prompt focusing on the thematic exploration of identity in literature. And that is a comment that I often hear about the IAP prompt, is that it's broader. But if you think about the nature of the prompt, they are provided with that new text that they have to use, and then they have a choice of 2 other texts to use. So it's going to be a broader prompt. Going back to our culminating writing task prompt, the students were specifically asked to determine to whom Kit is most loyal in The Witch of Blackbird Pond. Kit's loyalty and her shifts in loyalty are closely tied to her values, beliefs, and actions, which are all central to her identity. So this prompt really delved into Kit's personal journey and transformation within the context of her values and actions, as well as societal values and religious beliefs. My guess is that students would probably choose the anchor text because they have worked so deeply with it. But both prompts share that common theme of identity and the connection to values, beliefs, and actions. At this time, read the information about the prompt that is provided for you on the screen. With your table partners, I would like you now to circle all the nouns that you see in the writing prompt. Then consider the following questions with your group. This is very similar to the protocol that we followed in session 3. You're going to be looking for what ideas are present in the prompt, what are the demands of this prompt, and finally, what do students need to be mindful of? Welcome back. You probably talked about the ideas present in the prompt, really similar to what we engaged with in session 3. People, New England, identities, values, beliefs, and actions. And then looking at demands in terms of standards. I really see RL 6.1 emerge. You're citing text evidence to support analysis. RL 6.2, determining a theme or central idea. One that I see really strong is RL 6.3, looking at how the story's plot unfolds, the series of episodes, how characters respond and change, or how they respond to conflict. And then finally, what do students need to be mindful of? Students need to be mindful of the fact that they have to use the new text, and then they have a choice of the other two texts. Okay, now that we've explored the writing prompt, we will take a deep dive into the scoring rubric for the synthesis essay. If you'll join me on the IAP Score Report Guidance document, pages 21 through 22, you will see that the rubric takes up 2 pages. The responses to the writing prompt are scored for 2 dimensions. On page 21, you can find reading comprehension and written expression. And then on page 22, you'll see knowledge and use of language conventions. That top part of the rubric, the reading comprehension, the scores range from 0 to 4 points. The holistic score is doubled for a total of up to 8 points for that dimension. If you are familiar with the literary analysis task rubric or the research simulation task rubric, it looks very similar, except for the top is multiplied by 4. So the language convention scores on the bottom part of the rubric, or the second page, range from 0 to 3 points for a total of up to 3 points, and that is simply added to that top row. The rubric includes both dimensions, but it's important to know that when you do engage in the scoring activity, the student samples only show scores for that reading comprehension, only since this is the area of most concern and requires the most intensive instruction. As the LDOE continues to build out the student work samples, they'll add annotations for that bottom part, the language and conventions dimension. At this time, take 5 minutes to thoroughly read the writing prompt rubric that's found on pages 21 and 22 of the IAP report guidance document. As you read, I'd like you to pay really close attention to the words that are bolded, like we did in session 3. What do you notice about the progression of language from score to score? Welcome back. So let's talk about what you noticed about the progression of language from score to score. The first thing I want you to think about is the progression of the elements in the rubric itself. The rubric starts with understanding of the text and task. Then it moves to development, evidence analysis, followed by organization, and finally to style. If students can't understand what they read, they can't write about it. If they don't understand the task, they can't show their understanding of the text. Therefore, focusing on those later elements like organization and style can wait until the more critical elements are addressed. You might notice that stronger responses are rooted, just like in session 3, deeper analysis and selection of evidence. I want you to think about where students have shown insights and included analysis beyond just text evidence. This may be more thorough extensions, deeper connections, or picking the right evidence. You'll notice the use of the term effective over and over at that highest score point, and mostly effective at the 3. The 3 might have a little less insight, but still has analysis and reasoning supported by relevant evidence. As we move across the rubric, you'll notice that the words that dominate the lower score points, particularly the language of the 2, you'll see basic understanding, somewhat. The student might be on the right track, but the evidence is often thin, and maybe the reasoning is not sharp. However, these students get it, so moving them to a higher score point is usually about taking advantage of missed opportunities in their writing, which usually has to do with development, or they need better or more evidence, or more analysis that goes beyond the evidence. The repeated language of the 1, however, is limited, minimal, even maybe when addressing the task. Many of the strategies in our guidance, they're aimed at supporting these students, starting small with opportunities to help them address a task and then show understanding. And finally, the language of the 0 is often negative in nature. No comprehension, undeveloped, inappropriate, little, no. Often the issue comes from that first part of the prompt, inaccurate or no analysis or not on task. Okay, before engaging in the scoring activity, we will build some quick context in order to more deeply understand the text students wrote in response to. You've already reviewed the text set for The Witch of Blackbird Pond in session 3. With this knowledge in mind, you are going to take some time to review the writing prompt on page 19 of the assessment guide. Once again, I'd like you to consider the following questions with your group. What do you notice about the texts that were chosen for the prompt? And what connections do these texts have to the big ideas of the unit and prompt? Okay, welcome back. What I noticed about the text chosen is they're the poems. So the anchor text was literary and the choice texts were those poems. And so what you might have noticed about the text chosen for the writing prompt is you had that common theme of identity. All of the text explore individuals and their values, beliefs, and actions. You may not have specific call outs to Puritan New England. However, there are connections thematically. You might notice Witch of Blackbird Pond obviously is the same historical setting as the new text. And then you've got the diverse text types. You've got a novel, you've got poems, but overall, the texts are thoughtfully selected to build that comprehensive examination of identity and its relationship with values, beliefs, and actions. Second, what connections do these texts have to the big ideas of the unit and prompts? Again, these selected texts are closely tied to the core themes of people, ideas, of identities, values, and beliefs. Okay, at this time, if you'll join me on page 2 of your participant guide, you will have 20 minutes to read the poems. You will need to use your device to find digital access to these texts, and please carefully read each text, taking notes on page 2 of your participant guide as you look for the big ideas that we identified in the beginning of this session. Sometimes we try to jump to scoring papers when we haven't actually deeply understood the text, and as ELA teachers, we truly know better than that. It's important for us to read the text and understand them so that if we see student work where they're misrepresenting the text or using characters' wrong names, we will be able to understand that. At this time, please read the poems and take notes on your participant guide. Okay, before we really dig into the sample essays, I wanted to remind you about the reader circle for literary text. You can find this image on page 3 of your participant guide, and we went over this, this graphic in detail in session 3. So now that you've read the poems and you have read the new text, The Heretic's Daughter, you might notice that all of these texts work through those rings on the reader circle, ultimately making meaning. Okay, at this time, we will dig into the scoring activity for the synthesis essay. Detailed scoring notes are provided when training readers to score the student responses on the test. You can find these detailed scoring notes on pages 22 to 25 of the IAP report guidance document. The notes that are found on these pages include some possible ideas, relevant evidence from the unit-related text, as well as relevant information and details listed in the prompt. Please take about 7 minutes to read the scoring notes on pages 22 to 25. Okay, at this time, we're ready to engage in our scoring activity. I wanted to call out that on pages 11 through 12 of the IAP score report guidance document, there is a very valuable protocol that you could use in teacher collaboration that walks you through how to score student work. The idea is that, teachers are bringing a stack of work and scoring them together. For our purposes today, the essays have actually already been scored. So we're going to do a variation of a scoring activity. So in small groups, I need everyone to choose a high, medium, and low scoring essay to study. With each essay, one person from the group should read the response out loud. This helps regulate our timing and just kind of keeps everyone on the same page. Then group members should read the scoring notes and rubric for each response. You'll annotate the essays with your reflections, again, for the high, medium, and low scoring essay. So please engage with your group to score these essays. Welcome back. I know that you gleaned a lot from seeing this real student writing that's annotated with scoring notes. Very valuable resource. At this time, I'd like you to join me on your participant guide, page 3, and answer the question, what did you learn from the scoring activity? Keep in mind, we've got another session coming up, session 5, Understanding Score Reports. For questions about the IAP, please contact Ruth Caluette, the Innovative Assessment Coordinator. You can also send general assessment questions. Thank you. See you in session 5.